It's lunchtime and you open your lunch box and all you see there is the same old peanut butter sandwich. Would you like to see something else in there? Well, stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome, friends, to a new Let's Cook Together. And today we have some very special recipes for you for that lunch box. And with us, we have Angela Poach, and she's a nutritionist, and she has some delicious things to show you. Angela, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
I'm glad that you're here with us today.
I'm glad to be
here. And I know that you are going to make happy many people that have to take lunch boxes to their job or even the children in school, right?
Yeah.
But Angela, first tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a nutritional counselor. I took my nutritional counseling at a school in Calgary called Total Health School of Nutrition. And I took it because I wanted to better learn how to prepare foods in the right amounts to have good nutrition as a vegetarian.
And that's important because even though we may not know how to cook well, healthy, but many times we don't know the portions.
Right, we don't know exactly how much protein should I have, how much carbohydrate. And so I wanted to learn all that. I wanted to be well versed from a scientific standpoint on what that was, and so I went to school for that.
Well, that's wonderful because it's very hard sometimes to when they talk to us about portions, carbohydrates and protein and sugars and all that. We may have a number, but we don't know how to relate to it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So very good. So you're going to teach us a little bit about that.
We'll talk a little bit about that today. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Well, how about if we go and read out the recipe?
Sure. First recipe is tofu slices. We have 1 pound of firm water-packed tofu, 1/4 to 1/2 cup of unfermented soy sauce, 2 to 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes, and that's optional.
Very good. So then, how about if we
get
hands on it?
Sure.
Yeah?
So you'd open the package and you would drain that really well. And you can use different consistencies of tofu. You could use extra firm. It'll make a much more firm slice. And it depends on the family's taste, whether they would like it chewier or whether they'd like it softer. And you can use medium tofu as well, but you have to be very careful when you're flipping it because it will break.
It will break easier.
So we're going to use firm
So it sounds
today.
like preferably is the very firm.
This one here is just firm, so you can use extra firm or firm. We're just going to slice it in about 1/4 inch slices. And tofu is very high.
Not too thick, huh?
Not too thick. And you could even go thinner, but it'll be a little bit easier to break when you go to flip it. So if you keep it a little thicker the first time you try this recipe, it'll work a lot easier than if you were doing it thin. But as you get used to it, you could go a little thinner. The thinner you go, the more flavor will permeate through when you use the soy sauce.
Okay. Yeah.
So we just slice that all up. We'll get our pan on.
Okay. So.
And this recipe is like very low fat, just the fat that's in the tofu naturally. Tofu is high in protein and low in fat.
Hold on. Notice that you are cooking with a pan that doesn't stick. How about if you're using a pan that sticks?
Like a cast iron.
Is it okay to use some oil?
A little bit of oil. You could pre-season it, especially with cast iron. You could pre-season it.
Okay. But this is really very convenient and easy.
Yeah, the non-stick is nice.
Non-stick.
For sure.
Very good.
So just get that in there. And then just put the brags on, or the non-fermented soy sauce, whatever you use. And I actually don't measure this recipe at home, as you can see. So you just get it covered, and then once that's heating, we're going to flip them and put more soy sauce on it. Tofu is, again, very high in tryptophan. And tryptophan is an essential amino acid that our bodies need. There's actually 22 amino acids that we need in protein, that we need in our foods. They only call 9 of those essential fatty acids because our body can't make those 9. So our body can make the other amino acids of the 22, but not those 9, and so they're considered essential because you need to eat them in your food.
So you can add some of those through the tofu.
Right. And the tryptophan, your body converts that to serotonin using sunshine, and your body functions. And so on. Then from there, it makes melatonin.
That's a very good information. Now, it seems like you're cooking a very low heat, or...
I didn't get it hot enough.
No?
So it will heat up and bubble.
Okay.
So maybe we
because,
should go on.
I tend to put things like quickly on hot heat.
Sure.
And then I'm in trouble sometimes.
Yeah, if it gets too hot, things will smoke. And whenever you have smoke,
Right.
that creates carcinogens. So we don't want that,
yes,
especially
yes.
oils. Fats that get too hot will create carcinogens, and we really don't want those.
Definitely. So we're going to cook it in a low heat.
So maybe while that's cooking, we could go on to our next recipe.
Okay, let's do that.
We're going to do G-Good dinner loaf. We need 1/2 cup of boiling water, 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of peanut or walnut butter, 1 cube or 1 tablespoon of beef seasoning, 2½ cups of gluten flour, 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast flakes, 1/4 cup of unfermented soy sauce, and 2 cups of water.
Angela, why do you call this the G-Good dinner loaf?
The G stands for gluten, and quite often people, they hear gluten and they kind of wrinkle their face and they don't understand why you call something gluten. So I just took the gluten off and left the G.
Oh, I see. But that's good because some people will know right away that this has gluten, and if they are not able to process gluten and
Right, if they're celiac.
then they can know right away, oh, that's not for me.
Right.
But those that can eat gluten, this is going to be a great recipe, right?
And that's one of the reasons I did the tofu slices, because then they have the option, if they're wheat or gluten intolerant, they're able to use the tofu slices, which we just made in our previous recipe. And if they can't have soy, they can have the gluten.
Wonderful. That's very, very good information.
Right.
So should we start?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, the first thing we're going to do, of course, is we need our gluten flour.
Yes.
So we have our 2½ cups of gluten flour. All right. And then we're going to put in our nutritional yeast flakes.
Nutritional yeast. Now tell us a little bit about that nutritional yeast.
Nutritional yeast flakes. Nutritional yeast flakes are high in B vitamins, and some brands actually have B12, which can be hard for vegans and vegetarians to get.
And
So just check
and the way to know it is to look at the
on
package?
the package. It should have it.
Very good. And
And
we have
then we're going to
something
mix
else
our
here?
liquids if you want to put the liquids together. So we have water here, and this is
And
our.
we're going to put it here all together in.
Yeah. You want to put the peanut butter in there first before we put it in here.
Very good.
And you can use walnut butter. Walnut butter has omega-3 and tryptophan, good for the brain.
How about almond butter?
Almond butter would work in here as well.
I know a lot of people like almond butter.
Yeah.
I know I do. Okay, so
mix
then
that
we
up.
are going to mix it up. Might be a little hard to mix here.
It is, but that's okay. We're gonna work it really good in this bowl.
Okay. So we just want to break it up a little bit.
Right.
Okay. I think that looks pretty good. How about it?
Go ahead and put that in.
Okay.
And we're just gonna mix that all together. You know, there's lots of different ways to make lunch boxes. And you don't have to use even bread every time you make a sandwich. My mom used to use waffles. She'd make a batch of
really?
waffles, leftover waffles, which is also good for people who have gluten or wheat intolerance.
Yes,
because you can make
yes.
oat waffles, you can make rice waffles.
Yes.
You get a different waffle.
Wow. What a great idea. That's
Yeah, you got
very true.
So she used waffles and put different fillings in the waffles for my lunch. You can use tortillas and wraps.
Yes. And the waffles, the children that loves waffles.
So you can see that.
They will just be so thrilled.
Yeah,
to
it's
see
fun. It's
waffles,
something different.
For the sandwich.
Yeah. So you can see that peanut butter just kind of breaks
Yes,
up right
I can
in
see
there.
that. I can smell it already too. Wonderful.
So we're just going to put that, we're going to spray our pan with nonstick spray. And then we'll put our loaf in
Hold
there.
this for you. Boy, this was a very quick recipe too.
Throwing things at you. Sorry, Irma.
That's okay.
All right, we're just going to form this into a bit of a loaf, just to make it pretty. And it'll slice better if it doesn't have any air pockets.
You know,
And this will actually rise in the oven.
Oh, it does. Yeah, of course, because it's got the flour.
The gluten.
Angela, this is wonderful because, you know, vegetarians, sometimes they think that recipes are too difficult to deal with, but it's not.
No.
There's so many wonderful recipes like this, very easy, not time consuming.
No. Doesn't take very long at all.
And delicious and nutritional.
Yeah, and it's very forgiving. For instance, if you forget to put the bouillon in like we did.
Yeah, like we did.
You can actually pour it on top.
Oh, well, I like that too because sometimes you do get busy talking or taking care of the next recipe or whatever, and you forget.
You forget things.
Yes.
The gluten will absorb this. We're just going to tuck it down so that that water goes down, and it'll permeate into the roast or the loaf that way a lot better.
Wonderful.
You know, there's lots of other things you can put in a lunchbox. A lot of people put in fruit. They put in their apple and their peanut butter sandwich, and then their apple and their peanut butter sandwich, and then an orange and a peanut butter sandwich. But you can put vegetables in a peanut butter gluten loaf. You can do vegetables, chopped vegetables like carrots, broccoli, celery. Put them in baggies with a little bit of water, or get those airtight containers and put those in your lunch. Make a little dip.
Wonderful. What about if it is, let's say it's in the refrigerator and it's cold, and you don't want to eat it cold, you want to reheat it?
Reheat it.
You can have it. Could you do that?
You can keep it sliced in the refrigerator. You could even freeze this dish, and then you can just fry it, or heat it lightly in a nonstick pan, or you can put it in a 9x13 dish. Put your slices in there, put a nice gravy on top, and bake it in the oven until it's warm.
Wonderful.
And then you can serve it with potatoes or rice.
Good. It really smells good too.
Yeah, it's a very easy dish. Even men can make this dish.
Very good idea. Okay, how about if we read the next recipe?
Sure, let's go into our next recipe.
Okay.
Our next recipe is blueberry muffins. For that, we'll need 3/4 cup of whole wheat flour or spelt, 1 cup of unbleached flour, 1/2 cup of raw sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 1/2 tablespoons of energy baking powder, 1 1/4 cups of soy milk or coconut milk, 1/4 cup of applesauce or vegetable oil, 1/8 teaspoon of almond extract, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of fresh or frozen blueberries.
Angela, we're going to make blueberry muffins. I'm so glad, but I have a question. Are muffins in general very high calorie?
They can be if you use oil. So you can use oil to get your omega-3s. You could use canola oil. Or if you have children who have growing needs, they need the oils. And so they need to have that extra fat in their diet. But if you want to lose weight and you're wanting low fat, then you can use the applesauce. And that's why we showed in the ingredients that you could use applesauce or you could use oil.
Oh, wonderful. Because they are wonderful in the morning.
Yeah.
You know.
Muffins are great because you can put them in the lunchbox. You can use bran muffins, blueberry muffins. You could use raspberries in this recipe, or blackberries. And you can just do all kinds of things with muffins.
So you can do different fruits.
Different fruits.
Put in different fruits.
Yeah.
That is great. Okay, so how do we get started?
Okay, we're going to start with the dry ingredients. So we'll go ahead and put the dry ingredients in.
So we're going to put our flour.
Right, we have 1 cup of unbleached flour. And you could use whole wheat pastry flour as well,
Okay,
or
so we
spelt.
put both together.
Yeah, and the
whole white and the whole wheat.
Yeah, and you can use strictly whole wheat. We're going to use a little bit of white just to make them a little lighter. It actually helps with digestion if there's digestion problems, to have them a little lighter than a heavy consistency that goes for bread or muffins. And so we're just going to make it a little lighter. And a trick that my aunt taught me is if you whisk it, it acts like sifting. The old-fashioned sifters that you would sift flour for.
Yes.
So if you actually lighten it with a whisk, or in this case we're going to use a fork, you can.
Good idea.
It lightens the flour and it helps them to rise a little higher. All right, we're going to add our raw sugar.
So we'll do sugar. So we are doing dry ingredients.
And we're going to use some energy baking powder.
Energy baking.
And the reason I have energy baking powder here is because it doesn't have any baking soda in it. And baking soda is very hard, especially when people have arthritis. It affects their joints. And it's also difficult for digestion. Our body actually makes baking soda, believe it or not, and it uses it to neutralize the acids in our stomach after digestion is finished. So what ends up happening is if we're eating the baking soda before we digest, you can see the problem. Now we're neutralizing the acids before we've digested our foods, and we're not going to get the nutrients that we need. So we want to avoid those baking sodas. So this is one brand that I have found that does not have baking soda. It's very hard to find without baking soda in it. It's called bicardium sodamate, or in the old days they called it sulstrus.
Oh, okay.
So it was an interesting term, but that's what they used to call it back in the 1800s, 1900s. They called it sulstrus.
That's good because, you know, Angela, many times that you go to potlucks and they have muffins or some sort of cake where they use baking powder. Sometimes it accumulates in areas, and then you take a bite and it's not so pleasant, the taste.
Right.
How about this product? Does it have that also aftertaste?
Right, you want to make sure it's thoroughly mixed. Any leavening would do that.
Any leavening.
Yeah, so you want to make sure it's thoroughly mixed, make sure there's no lumps in there. The other nice thing about the energy baking powder is it's calcium carbonate and citric acid. And when you put those two together with liquid, it creates calcium citrate, which is one of the most absorbable forms of calcium that you can have. And of course, calcium is not only for good bones, but it's also good for nerve function and other body needs. And so calcium is one of those very vital. Yes.
Yeah. Very good.
Helps with lowering your, like you say, stress and whatnot. And we're going to add the blueberries. These were frozen, but you can use fresh. Blueberries, you know, are very high in antioxidants.
Yes.
And we're going to coat these with flour. One of the reasons we want to coat the blueberries with flour so they don't sink to the bottom in our muffins.
Okay.
When you coat the blueberries with flour, it prevents that sinking, and so they're nice and even throughout the muffin. So we want to coat them.
That's how, when I do my fruit cake, we do that the same thing.
Right.
Coat them with
all the fruits so that they don't all float to the bottom, sink to the bottom. You cut the cake and they're all there at the bottom.
On one side.
Sure. We're going to combine our liquid. We'll combine all our liquid in one container.
Doesn't matter which one goes first.
And we're using canola oil here again because we're talking about brain function and brain foods, so we want to use the omega-3. But you can use applesauce if you're trying to lose weight.
And the almond extract.
Yeah, almond and vanilla.
Now,
and we'll just kind of stir that up. Mix it thoroughly there. Now, one of the other tips before we combine these two, one of the things I should talk about with energy baking powder, unlike all the other baking powders in the market, at least all the ones that I've seen, I've done a little bit of research on it, they're double-acting baking powders.
Yes.
And that's why they add the baking soda. There's lots of ingredients in there, and that's the first leavening, and then also the baking soda helps leaven as well. And double-acting means once it will start to leaven. You know how you see the bubbles when you put them together? And so that's the first leavening ingredient. And the second time it leavens is when the heat hits it. And the heat comes on there and in the oven, and they come up even more. Energy baking powder only leavens once. Part-time while you're stirring it and part-time in the oven. So if you're too long and you're mixing it and you step away and you go do something, they're not going to turn out. And so why a lot of people have avoided some of the more healthier baking powders is because they don't get as fluffy. So one of the tricks to getting them fluffy is make sure when you put this together, it's in the pan and get it
all at once.
That's right.
Very good. Okay,
so we'll put that in.
We'll put this.
So we're going to mix it as quickly as we can. Well, Irma, why don't you finish stirring that up for us?
I'll be glad to. This looks like it's going to be just delicious. I love blueberries, especially in muffins.
Muffins are, you know, one of the nice things when you put them in a lunch kit is they're not going to ooze out anywhere, like a pastry might, like a cake or like a pie. Piece of pie might, you know, come apart. Muffins, you can throw them in a baggie, put them in the lunch kit, and away you go. That looks pretty good. Just maybe get around the edge there, and we'll get our pan ready. Go ahead and spread our pan with nonstick spray, or you can use muffin papers. Kind of fun sometimes to use.
Oh yes,
decorative,
for the children, they love it.
You can use muffin papers with leaves on them for fall, or you can do Christmas ones. You could do stuff for spring. Just make them fun.
So you can get creative.
You can.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, and
this is really good to have the children be involved. Not only making it, but putting it in the little containers.
They sure could.
Paper cups. They love
All right, that looks really good.
I think that's good.
So we're just going to fill these about 3/4 full.
Okay.
And I'll just pour
I
that.
need that, yeah. Wonderful.
Maybe a little full. We don't want it too full because it'll come up over the edge. So we're going to just get these about 3/4 full. And another wonderful thing to put in a lunchbox is a little I love you note.
Oh, yes.
And to say
Yes.
thank you, for being sweet to me today, or those kind of things. It really encourages our family when we can give them little words of encouragement and speak thank yous.
This muffin, especially for you, that were so wonderful this morning before
One
you
time-
went to school.
Yeah. So one time my mom needed to get some things she was living at home, and she needed to get some extra groceries. So she wanted her dad to pick up those groceries, and he just kept forgetting. So she made a nice little note, and she thought, I'm going to put it right in his sandwich. He ate it. Oh, he didn't get the groceries. So you can see I filled these ones a little too full, so we can steal a little bit of the blueberries there. And you can use a little tablespoon for this. It'd probably work better. So we would normally just get all these even. I get talking, and then I didn't do it properly, huh?
Well,
kind of the way it goes.
that it shows what to do in case we don't
Do it right at home.
we start wrong.
Yeah, real life.
So
Real life.
yes.
All right, so we
Very
would
good.
bake these at, now what, let me explain. I preheat my oven first. I preheat it to about 400 degrees when I'm using energy baking powder because of that quick time. So I'll preheat my oven quite high, and then when I put the muffins in, I'll turn it back down to 375 and bake them for the required time. In this case, it's 20 to 25 minutes.
20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah, so we want to
Okay.
preheat that oven and have it nice and hot and ready to go. And another tip is you can clean the muffin pan before you bake it, and these things won't all dry on there and wreck your muffin pan. Sometimes you use your muffin pan and
Yes,
eventually
yes.
it just gets really brown. If you wipe this
Absolutely.
all down first,
And they're very hard to clean.
very hard to
You
clean.
gotta really scrub.
Yeah.
What a good idea,
Yeah.
Angela. This is wonderful.
And if we have more free recipes on our website that people can go to.
Yes, I wanted to ask you because you have some cookbooks too.
I do.
Right?
I have 7 cookbooks.
Wonderful.
And they're all done in categories. So we have a breads cookbook, which includes muffin recipes like this one. And lots of the bread recipes include recipes for people who are wheat intolerant and celiac.
So people can call and
That's
ask
right.
for it to buy the books
Yeah.
too?
My publishing company is called Sete Publishing, and that's me. And they can call 1-877-597-3883. And they can ask for the cookbooks there. They can go online at www.healthyhomecookin.com. That's healthyhomecookin.com. And actually, we're going to offer for our 3ABN viewers, I just wrote a book on becoming a vegetarian. It's an ebook, so it's something you have to have on the internet. But if they do have internet, they can download that at healthyhomecookin.com/3ABN. And there they'll find a link where they can download that book for free.
Well, I'll be looking forward to read that one in particular because I know I have a lot of friends too that are trying to become vegetarians, and they're having a little difficult time.
Yeah, they don't know where to
doing it.
start.
So they
you know.
don't. Yes, it's very hard.
That's a very common question.
The transition is tough sometimes.
Yeah, they don't know. And if I give up meat, what do I eat for protein? So
Yes.
we cover all that in the book.
Oh, very good. So we finished our muffins.
Yeah. Now we're
we're going to bake them. And
we also have
You
a
have something
gluten-free
else?
version of these muffins for people who
Oh.
are celiac. And so we can show that recipe right now, the blueberry rice muffins. So our recipe for blueberry rice muffins is 1 cup of brown rice flour, 1/3 cup of tapioca starch or corn flour, 1/2 cup of corn flour, 1½ teaspoons of energy baking powder, 1 teaspoon of energy egg replacer, which is optional, just helps them to be a little lighter, 1/3 to 1/2 cup of raw sugar, 1 cup of blueberries, 1 cup of soy milk, 1/4 cup of applesauce or vegetable oil, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/8 teaspoon of almond extract.
thank you, Angela. This has been wonderful. Stay with us because we'll be back with the final product.
We hope you've enjoyed cooking with Angela. Now let's take a moment to review her lunchbox ideas. For the tofu slices, you will need 1 pound firm or extra firm tofu, 1/4 to 1/2 cup unfermented soy sauce, 2 to 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes. For the G Good dinner loaf, you will need 1/2 cup boiling water, 1/4 to 1/2 cup peanut or walnut butter, 1 cube of beef seasoning, 2 1/2 cups of gluten flour, 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast flakes, 1/4 cup unfermented soy sauce, and 2 cups of water. For the blueberry muffins, you will need 3/4 cup of whole wheat flour, 1 cup unbleached flour, 1/2 cup raw sugar, 1/2 teaspoon sea salt, 1 1/2 teaspoon Energy G baking powder, 1 1/4 cup soy milk or coconut milk, 1/4 cup applesauce or vegetable oil, 1/8 teaspoon almond extract, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 cup fresh or frozen blueberries. For the blueberry rice muffins, you will need 1 cup brown rice flour, 1/3 cup tapioca starch, 1/2 cup corn flour, 1 1/2 teaspoon Energy G baking powder, 1 teaspoon Energy G egg replacer, optional, 1/3 to 1/2 cup raw sugar, 1 cup blueberries, 1 cup soy milk, 1/4 cup applesauce or vegetable oil, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1/8 teaspoon almond extract. If you'd like more information on how to contact Angela, or if you'd like to receive today's recipes, please write to 3ABM, Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois, 62896. That address again is 3ABN, Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois, 62896. Or you may call 1-800-752-3226. Now, let's take a look at our finished recipes with Angela.
Welcome back, Angela. How about if you talk to us about our final product?
All right. Well, first, of course, we have our tofu slices that we made up at the beginning. And then we have a vegetable platter here to remind us about all those things we talked about in our lunches, putting vegetables in our baggies for our lunches. And then our dinner loaf, which of course can be served hot with gravy. And the blueberry muffins, which are always a hit.
Very good, and everything is very nutritious for the children, especially in their lunch boxes. They don't like vegetables too much. I like this idea that you can put in there and it look beautiful, so attractive. Thank you so much to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And for each one of you, God bless you. Till then.